contextualizar, essa atividade é parte das atividades realizadas pelo BrLab, um laboratório, um workshop anual para o desenvolvimento de projetos de futuros filmes. O BrLab acontece desde 2011, é o único espaço no Brasil que recebe projetos estrangeiros e brasileiros para serem trabalhados ao longo de uma semana em aspectos como direção, roteiro, produção e distribuição. Esse ano, pela primeira vez, o BrLab conta com o patrocínio de uma empresa privada, a Oi, nossa patrocinadora através do Programa de Ação Cultural de São Paulo, o que nos permitiu, somado à correalização do Sesc São Paulo e ao patrocínio da Prefeitura de São Paulo através da SP Cine, expandir as atividades do laboratório para um público mais abrangente, além do coração do laboratório, que são os 12 projetos tutorados ao longo de uma semana. Dentre essas atividades, dessa expansão da programação, esse ano a gente promoveu pela primeira vez um ciclo de mesas abertas com foco na narrativa e na escrita cinematográfica e também no mercado de roteiristas no Brasil, chamado BrPlot. E, pela primeira vez, organizamos em parceria com o Torino Film Lab um workshop de design de audiência para 3 projetos num estágio um pouco mais avançado do que os projetos que participam do BrLab, que já tem um distribuidor envolvido e que estejam nesse processo de tentar encontrar novos públicos, dissecar novos públicos e pensar maneiras de como engajá-los. Sem mais delongas, é isso. Agradecer novamente nossos patrocinadores, a Oi, que nos patrocina através do PROAC, a SP Cine e ao Sesc que co-realizam. I'm speaking Portuguese, but the lecture is going to be in English, just because then I can feel more comfortable just to speaking and to present the project. I'd like to thank you, Greta, Nordio, and Marcelo, Quesada. They are the tutors for the audience design workshop, and they are here to share their experience and knowledge on audience design for you. Thank you very much. Just gracias.
Thank you, Rafa. Sim. What?
Vai passar um vídeo antes. It's going to be a video before.
Bem-vindos a
acelerar mudanças, deletar fronteiras, abraçar cidades, tecer redes, mixar linguagens, convergir ideias, transformar realidades, porque o futuro é hoje. É a inquietação, o inusitado, a ousadia. É arte, ciência e tecnologia abrindo multipossibilidades. São os públicos no centro do palco, a experiência viva e sem rótulos. Oi Futuro, em todas as regiões do país, apoiando projetos que encontram você e milhões de brasileiros. Porque a gente conecta pessoas, causas e ideias. E o que está conectado transforma e transcende. Oi, junto é bem melhor.
We are just waiting for the screen to change. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's because I didn't remember what it. No. Well, thank you for coming. Actually, I am always a little afraid of these kind of situations because I have been in a couple of them in which there are more people in this side of the table than on the other side. And I was a little afraid because of the time. But, well, thank you. We are grateful that all of you are here. My name is Marcelo. I am from Costa Rica. I am a field distributor and programmer. I started working in 2012 with a company that we created in Costa Rica that is called Pacifica Gray, aiming to bring independent cinema to a region in which there was almost none independent cinema being showed in theaters, and because of that, a region in which there wasn't much of an audience for independent cinema. You know, I come from a country where there is not a cinematheque, so there is not like a wide audiovisual culture. So through that, we had our first challenge that was how to put these little small films on the spot against much bigger stuff that gets all the attention. And struggling with those thoughts is that we started doing something that later we knew it was called audience design, or that at least in Torino, Italy, they call it audience design, right? I'm saying this because we are going just to give an introduction about our thoughts on what this concept is, because it emerged very recently, actually. I think the workshop, let's see, Torino Film Lab is an institution focused on training for film professionals. And in 2012, at that same time, they started a program that was called Audience Design. The funny thing is that I didn't apply to that program because I didn't knew I was doing audience design. I applied to another program, and they told me, no, you don't go in this, you are not accepted. You'll go to the one of audience design. That for us, in brief terms, it's about exploring connections between films and audience. If we had to go through a concrete explanation or definition of what it is, we would say that audience design is the process of creating audience awareness and engagement. Those two words are very important for us around films on early stages of development through a story-based and multi-angle approach. That sounds like something that comes from theory, and this is not at all an approachment that comes from theory. But as we always try to create definition of things, this is a starting point, you know. We came to this need, I will say, because of a common problem. There are too many films being made, which is good for us that are producers too, and it's good probably for everyone in here that they are trying to bring their films, right? But the reality is this one. There are too many films being made nowadays, more than a market can accept, you know? And not only a market, more than people can watch. The reality is that we only have a certain amount of time a day, and we need to take very specific decisions on what we want to see in this big sea of titles. So it's very easy to do a movie that is not able to reach an audience. And this doesn't have to be connected to the idea of having a good film or a bad film. Actually, there are a good amount of great quality films that doesn't reach an audience, you know? There are two ideas specifically about this Screen Magazine article that I find very important. One says, there is no equivalent search of innovation in distribution and audience relations, the report stated. A theatrical window is not feasible either for all quality films, not even in the festival circuit, you know? Let's see. Taking into account that we will do a great film, that is hard enough already, that doesn't guarantee us anything in the commercial market and not even on the festival market, you know? That it's still very limited even though it tries to bring a wider number of proposals. The other idea, it says, the elephant in the room is that there are too many filmmakers and production companies for the market as currently organized to sustain. I don't know if you agree with that, but for me it's a cold fact, you know. It is what it is. This was said by Joanna Koljonen. She is from Sweden, from a project called the Nostradamus Report, that I will tell you a little bit more later, but that actually it's an academic project that investigates on the current state of audiovisual market, you know. So, because of this, we took 2 notes. We need to stand out and generate notoriety to exist in the market. We need to emerge from this big sea of titles. And people are tired of being sold stuff. Like we are, to this point, we are almost immune to advertisement because it's everywhere and we don't connect on a natural and organic way to people just saying to us, go to see this film. So because of these couple of ideas is that the audience design approach emerges. The audience design approach is experimental, is playful, is not a box squared, is not totally defined yet, but it's about finding new ways of connecting with people, you know? So, talking a little bit about the audience design approach and mindset. For us, films are a great possibility to generate a conversation. We figure that probably every film starts with the need of a filmmaker to create a discussion or to talk about different themes and topics, you know, that interest them because of their worldview. They have a specific way of seeing the world, and that's why they are talking in this way about these topics, right? So, if a dialogue is created, we feel that the films would be successful. You know, you don't need to do a perfect film if that exists anyway, because films are living organic things. To have a successful project, you just have to be precise on creating a good conversation around the themes you want people to dialogue from, you know? So, audience design aims to guide and focus the conversation in a proper way, being very specific about what it is, and to reach the people that are interested on having that conversation. And we have some mechanisms to do that. First of all, we try to understand which elements of the film create an emotional connection. For us, films, it's all about emotion, very different, wider range of emotion, but we need to detect in our film what creates emotion. Usually you connect with ideas that are within your worldview. Again, we come to the idea of starting a conversation with people that wants to have that conversation, right? You usually feel connected with ideas that fit the way you see the world too, and with filmmakers that fit the way you see the world. And let's see, just as distribution companies, exhibition companies, production companies have an editorial line, people has an editorial line too. So we try to use these ideas to start searching, you know. So we come back to the point A and point B and get to the conclusion that audience design looks for new ways of reaching and engaging audiences. Is it better? Is it worse of what traditional distribution and marketing does? It's not better, it's not worse. Actually, it brings a lot from what is already done, you know, but it is something that is more deeply connected with the situation of how the market is working today. Turn it on.
Sorry, I'm not very good with technology. My name is Greta Nordio. I come from Italy. I basically started working in the field of audience design in New York, where I worked with a company that basically research audiences, both for crowdfunding campaigns and for theatrical openings, mostly of documentaries. But we basically were hired by distributors to help them to find connections and create connections with the right audiences. It's called outreach in the US. Maybe you're familiar with the term too. But to me, it was a completely kind of life-changing experience in this company, because I always thought, you know, you make the film, then you distribute, and your job is done. I mean, you always expect the people to come to the film. And because of what Marcelo was saying, that there are too many films, too much content and everything, people actually don't even know your film exists, probably, or the right people who would love to see the film probably don't even know about it, which is really sad. Right now I moved back to Italy, and I'm working for a small independent production company. And so I'm seeing the other side, but it's still very frustrating that, you know, you put so many years into making a movie and so much work, and in the end it doesn't go well. It's the reality for a lot of us in Italy. Just independent films, even rarely with just the theatrical distribution, don't even make back the marketing money that you spend to distribute it. So it's really, really a sad moment right now. So what I like a lot about audience design is that it completely changes a bit the mindset of the organization of how you do the work. Because if you start thinking about the end goals, so if you think about the audience, but also what kind of goals and aims you have for the films at the end, from the very beginning, from when you're writing it, then first of all, you can make the best film to reach the audience. I don't mean the fact that you have to change the story to like please an audience, but at the same time you can adapt small things so that maybe the audience can relate better to your story or the audience you want to reach. But at the same time, it gives you an incredible amount of time to really be prepared when the movie comes out, so that you don't have like 2 months of preparing marketing communication in a rush, and then when you release it, there's not enough time for people to get to know it. So I think it's the timing part is a really great opportunity to have also, because you have time to produce the materials that you might need, you have time to build the community, and really time to prepare. The challenge, however, is maybe if you have too much time, you have to really be careful also about the scheduling of the timeline, because maybe you start thinking about the film too early, and at that moment you have to spend a lot of money to keep people engaged and interested for like a whole year before the movie comes out. So, I mean, we need to be smart about this, but I think it's a great opportunity anyway. And so the first thing I think is really, really important is to get the time to know your audience. So be really focused about who you think would like your film. Of course, the film, it's still always the starting point. So if you make a thriller, probably you will go to people who like thrillers, not people who like romantic comedies, for example. And that is always the starting point. Once you kind of understand who your audience is, you might have a lot of different audiences too. So you should like try to understand exactly who they are, and they might all have different habits, interests, experiences. They consume content differently. They hear about films from different sources, and you should know it, because then you have to go to those sources to get the people to know about your film too. Also, it's important to know how active they are. If an audience maybe is more active, maybe that could be your target audience, your core audience, because then they spread the word to the rest, and so on. And basically, also it's really good to build partnerships, then to find like your point of connection with the audience. There are always some institutions, some people, some media that basically are a great outlet to reach the single people, because of course you cannot go knocking on every door to reach the people. So it's to take the time to create also meaningful partnerships. It's really important. But at the same time, apart from creating connections, understand what are your connection to the audience. I think you should also really understand what is the connection between the story and the audience, the film and the audience. So audience design, I think it's interesting because it's all based on storytelling. And storytelling is a term that is really fashionable right now. Everybody talks about storytelling and content marketing, but I think it can be fashionable, but it's also fashionable because it's useful. If we think about what we remember best, what are the things that we retain, the information we retain mostly, it's mostly stories, or even the way we tell people something. People remember it well if it's a good story. And this is great because also when you make a film, you're already making a story. So what you have to do is just understand the point of connection, and that from that point on you can expand the universe of the film to also let the people that way you, first of all, you get the people who like that kind of story to get to know the universe, so they like your story. And second of all, you kind of make this information, what is just information, relevant to your audience. So if they really recognize themselves in the universe of the film, they will get attached. They will start liking to be associated with this universe, with this story. So maybe some of them will start to want to participate, and once you have the participation of the audience, you basically have a free publicity, the word of mouth publicity, that it's the thing that works best, because we all trust, I think, when our friends tell us, oh, let's go see, you have to go see this movie because it's incredible. For me personally, it works much better than seeing a poster, for example. And also it's great because since we are all independent filmmakers, that is free if someone recommends your film, and it's priceless. And also if you create really good content that people want to spend time on, people don't really perceive this content as advertisement. They really feel like it's a conversation that you're having. And so I think it's very important to work on emotions and relatability, and to find the thing that in your story speaks mostly to your audience. And but I think there's also a big challenge, which is distribution. Sorry about the distributors, don't hate me. But I think right now we have a big chance of starting to think about new ways of distribution. Because the thing is, even if you build a great communication strategy, but you don't have so much money, so you spend all your communication efforts for the theatrical opening, then the people who can go to the cinema will go, but then the people who can watch it on Netflix, maybe they can watch it 1 year later, 2 years later on TV. They will miss the film. I mean, on some aspects, it's okay. If you already sold it to Netflix, to TV, you made money, so it's good. But if you want to have a deep conversation with your audience, maybe you miss it because you miss the audience. I know that in the US, for example, they are experimenting with day and date, so they release it on VOD and the theatrical on the same day. In Italy, it's not possible. Legally, there are laws that make it not possible, so there are some problems, some struggles to think about, but it's nice. I think it's important to always think about the kind of access that the audience has to the film, about also the habits that the audience has, if it's possible for them to go to the cinema or not. Really, it's not a possibility for a lot of people. I think also in Brazil, I mean, you probably have a lot of cinemas in urban centers and outside the urban centers. Do you want to reach those people? If not, it's okay. But if you do want to reach them, how do you reach them? So I think it's this is a question for all of us. I think as a market everywhere worldwide, we have to face this issue soon, because also the numbers of people going to the cinema in Italy are dropping. We had 2 weeks ago, we had a 60% decrease of people who went to the cinema from 1 year ago. The next weekend was better, but still 60%. It's a problem.
It works. These are kind of the basics of the approach. You know, again, our starting point is filmmakers want to create a conversation about certain specific themes. We need to detect which are the themes of each film. When we detect the themes of each film, we need to understand who is interested naturally and organically in these themes, and create a bigger, farther conversation, you know? So we have some examples of that with the 4 very different films. First of all, there is a small film from Guatemala. It's called Marimbas from Hell. It is a film from Julio Hernandez Cordon. It was shot in 2009 with $20,000 in 2 weeks. I will put you the trailer so you get a brief idea of what it is.
Dieu existe. Il habite à Bruxelles.
Loi 2129. Quand on plonge un corps dans la baignoire, le téléphone sonne. Loi 2218. La file d'un côté avance toujours plus vite.
C'est dégueulasse ce que tu fais aux gens, tu les connais même pas et tu t'amuses à leur faire du mal.
Et t'es le numéro.
N'importe qui ferait mieux que toi.
C'est interdit d'aller dans le fond.
C'est exactement à ce moment-là que je me suis décidée à faire quelque chose.
Tu sais ce qu'elle a fait, ta fille? Elle a balancé les dates de décès.
Il est encore impossible de savoir s'il s'agit d'un canular ou si ces fameuses dates de décès se confirment.
Merde, je vais la chercher. Et je peux te dire que cette fois, elle va dérouiller. Je cherche une petite fille avec des cheveux noirs un peu agités.
qu'allons-nous faire du reste de notre vie est la question la plus fréquente sur les réseaux sociaux.
62 ans à vivre, 62, est.
Il dit qu'il vous aime bien.
C'est la première fois qu'il m'arrive quelque chose d'aussi beau.
Qui, lui?
Dieu.
Je l'imaginais pas comme ça.
No one apart from the cinephiles would have thought of going to see Marimba del Infierno, right? But we as distributors felt that it had a deep connection with the musical aspect, of course. Basically, Marimba del Infierno tells the story of this 65-year-old classical folkloric marimba player in Guatemala. He used to play at hotels. Now the hotels bought iPods and they are just putting background music through the iPods, so he doesn't have a job anymore. And there is the other character that is a heavy metal musician that he's not having enough gigs to support himself. So they meet and they say, what can we do? That is new, let's try to do a mix of metal and marimba, right? That is a powerful idea because it's something quite unexpected. In the film, they try it, they never are able to do it, you know? It is finally a story of what it is to have different cultural ideas or projects in Guatemala, right? So, we really felt that we could reach other audiences. And we started thinking about the connections, and we came to a very simple, obvious idea. What happens if we do a real fusion of metal and marimba, right? So we started talking with one of the most widely known heavy metal bands in the country, and with a marimba player from the symphonic orchestra. And we told them first, do you think it's possible to make a fusion of metal and marimba? They say yes. So then we asked them, would you be interested in doing it? Right? They say yes. And we started promoting the release of the film along with a concert that will happen after the screenings, right? What it happened is that a lot of media that usually wouldn't be interested at all in this film started being interested. Like, they say, what? Metal, marimba, okay. And little by little, the audience of cinephiles started expanding. First of all, to an audience of curious musicians and curious music lovers, and then to an audience of metalheads from the band. They just like everything the band does, so they say, okay, let's try out, right? And we had the screenings of the film, and actually they went really well. They were sold out, and it was an event, a series of events that people really remembered and allowed the conversation within the film to get out of the film and become like a regular topic for all the people who went, you know. I have like we did like a brief documentary of all the process. Let's see. But I can... In the preview, it let me like go forward, but in here I think it's not. Well, it doesn't matter. Like, it is a documentary about the whole process of the creation of the song. So we have the rehearsals, we have the opinions, and the most interesting thing is that Guatemala is really close to Costa Rica, so we said, what if we bring the main characters? So they came, and in the concert, the people in the film were the actual people that were singing the songs that in the film didn't really happen, you know? So it was quite memorable. I think I will, let's see, I think that is in this way I can show you.
Con una marimbista que me habían afamado muchísimo y estaba con la expectativa de conocerla cuando, como puse en mi Facebook,
I will just show you different moments.
Al mismo tiempo, la calidad de la gente involucrada en el proyecto me dio total así paz mental de que iba a ser un éxito, porque cuando ya trabajas con gente que se toma en serio su trabajo y son profesionales en eso, solo pueden salir cosas buenas, ¿verdad?
Cuando me dijeron a mí Neuma, lo primero que hice fue buscarlo en YouTube y vi que le habían abierto a Metallica, vi los videos que tenían, entonces dije, estos han de ser gente de peso.
Pensando
And this was like the actual concert. That was like the actual screening, one of the screenings of the film. Kind of crazy, but a little different. And again, I deeply believe that if we just release the film on the usual way, we would only have brought like the cinephiles. I'm quite sure about that. So again, this is a brief example of what audio design is about. Maybe you could say this is marketing. Maybe you could say it's a regular action of alternative distribution. Maybe, but for us, again, it has to do with thinking who can connect with this film and how can we bring this conversation to the people that want to have it, you know?
Okay, and instead I'm going to talk about a very interesting Italian project. It's a first feature. The director was completely unknown, and it's a small comedy. It's a co-production between Italy and Slovenia. And it was kind of a small, big success because it had a very interesting production story too. And in the end, it ended up being very successful. It made between 600,000 and 800,000 euros, which is a lot for an Italian first feature film. I don't know how many admissions it was, sorry. And everybody really loved the film. Then it was made into a play, into a book. Basically, it opened with around 10 screens, and then it went on for more than 50 screens after 2 or 3 weeks. And the story, it's very simple and very silly, maybe sometimes in some way, because it's the story of a man. He's the protagonist, who basically is a drunkard. He's very mean, not a very nice guy at all. Doesn't have anything to do with his life. He just drinks and curse. That's it. And one day he basically gets a letter saying that his aunt, or Slovenian aunt, died and has left him an inheritance, and he doesn't even know who this aunt was. But he goes to Slovenia and he finds out that his inheritance is to take care of his autistic nephew for a few days before he goes into a foster care home. And basically at the beginning he doesn't want to do it at all. Then he finds out that his nephew is very good at darts. So he thinks, okay, I'm going to keep him so that I win the big prize of the World Championships of Darts, which is like, I don't know, 1 million euros, something like that. And of course, at the end, instead, they really connect and create a relationship, and this changes his life. So very simple, very silly, something we've seen over and over again so many times. What the producers were really smart about was that they really built the story in the territory. The story is set in the northeast of Italy, in a region where not many films are made, not at all. There are not stories about that region at all, and basically they built it all on the tradition of drinking a lot of wine. It's a region famous for being the one where people drink the most, but the fact is that they basically showed that drinking is a way of connecting with people, and this is relatable to all parts of the world. We all drink to be with our friends. And so a very important space for the film was this is an osmizza. It's a place that you only find in the region. It's kind of a bar, but it's like a homemade bar, a kind of bar that you yourself can build in your garage, where you have very local wine and everything is very informal. And all the characters, all the time, they meet here. The whole town, there are people, the old people sing about how great is drinking wine. There is a song that is sung over and over again that says, like, wine is healthy and water is just for funerals. And so they had a choir also sing this song at the premieres. But basically what was interesting is that they raised most of the financing for the film from Italian funds, European funds, Slovenian funds. But in the end, they were still missing part of the budget. And they raised the rest of the budget by partnering with some wineries of the region. The wineries of the region gave them bottle of wines for free. And they traveled all around the festivals and markets selling the films, but also selling their wine. So you see, this is a bottle of wine with the poster of the film that they sold. It was kind of a crowdfunding, but not online. So already they kind of distinguished themselves, but they distinguished themselves by telling something of the story. Which was really nice. It was like a way of communicating the spirit of the story and what was important in the story. So it wasn't just, just giving money because I think this is a good film. No, like, let's have a glass of wine. Let's talk and become friends. And you also participate in making this movie, which I think was really smart. And then when they released the film, they basically, in some cities, of course, not every city, they created an experience of going to the osmizza. So they built outside of cinemas the osmizza, the bar that is in the film, and they sold the wine there too. And you see the van there is the van that they used in the film. And in the end, this really, first of all, created an experience so that people could relate better to the film. And secondly, it made people remember the film more fondly, because it was kind of, I end the film and then I can experience it firsthand. I can also drink a bottle of wine with the protagonists and with my friends, and it was just a really nice experience. And also another thing that was, I think, smart was that digitally, because the director is very, very similar to the protagonist, and they kind of wanted to portray themselves like a sincere film, and they had all these videos of the director basically reenacting scenes from the film. But it was very, very funny because it would like reenact scenes in which the protagonist is drunk and is chased by the police on the street, and it was fun because it was in like you kind of knew it was in real life, kind of, and it was nice because this allowed the people to really connect with the film. And I remember when I was researching the Facebook page, it's still very active. You have very active fan commenting on everything, but also sending messages to the page. There was one message that said, basically, it was a woman that said, I almost hugged someone on the subway today, a complete stranger, because they were talking about Zoran, and I wanted to let them know it was one of my favorite films. And it's nice. You don't usually find like even marketing strategies, campaigns that allow to like create such a connection so that the person feels connected to a stranger just because it has seen the film.
These were two examples of films, of small films in which the strategy maybe went a little bit over the top, you know. And the next two examples are the other way around, of bigger films with which we did much smaller actions, you know. So there is a film called The Brand New Testament. It's a film from 2015 from Belgium that basically has this very funny premise. God exists, he lives in Brussels, and he's an asshole. And this is the story of his daughter that is called Ea. And this is the trailer.
Dieu existe. Il habite à Bruxelles.
Loi 2129. Quand on plonge un corps dans la baignoire, le téléphone sonne. Loi 2218. La file d'un côté avance toujours plus vite.
C'est dégueulasse ce que tu fais aux gens, tu les connais même pas et tu t'amuses à leur faire du mal. N'importe qui ferait mieux que toi.
Interdit d'aller dans le fond.
C'est exactement à ce moment-là que je me suis décidé à faire quelque chose.
Tu sais ce qu'elle a fait, ta fille? Elle a balancé les dates de décès.
Il est encore impossible de savoir s'il s'agit d'un canular ou si ces fameuses dates de décès se confirment.
Je vais la chercher. Et je peux te dire que cette fois, elle va dérouiller. Je cherche une petite fille avec des cheveux noirs un peu agités.
Qu'allons-nous faire du reste de notre vie est la question la plus fréquente sur les réseaux sociaux.
62 ans à vivre, 62, est.
Il dit qu'il vous aime bien.
C'est la première fois qu'il m'arrive quelque chose d'aussi beau.
Qui, lui?
Dieu.
Je l'imaginais pas comme ça.
Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé?
Un miracle. Dieu nous dit, aime ton prochain comme toi-même.
J'ai jamais dit ça.
Pardon?
J'ai jamais dit ça. Mais l'autre, là, il est parti en sucette. Hein. Tout ce qu'il a réussi à faire, c'est se faire clouer sur un cintre comme une chouette.
Il a des pouvoirs, ton père, comme un super-héros.
Ne m'oblige pas à dire ton joint.
Mets-toi à l'aise, tu veux boire quelque chose?
Je sais pas qui je suis. Je sais pas qui je suis.
Qu'est-ce que c'est que ce bordel?
Hein? Tu es déjà rentré?
This is fun because this is a film that by itself, it's kind of really easy to sell, you know, because it is a very political incorrect, dark humor movie, and everyone would have an opinion, you know. Someone would get offended by this idea, God exists and he's an asshole, and others would think, that's the kind of humor I like, right? So, to regular marketing, like, there was a very clear path to go with this film. I don't know because it was in French and Spanish, but basically what it happens is that Ea, the daughter of God, she is in a rebellious stage. She is like 12 years old, and she is sick of her dad torturing humankind, you know? So she goes to her brother that is called JC, that he emancipated 2018 years ago or something, right? And he asked him, what can she do to take the power out of God? And Jesus tells her, I tried it when I was young. That's why I brought 12 apostles with me so that we could write a New Testament that could erase some of the very bad things that were on the Old Testament, you know? But it didn't work with 12 apostles. I think that the secret is that you should get 6 new apostles and write a brand new testament. So this girl goes to earth or get out of her house because God doesn't let any of them get out of the house. She escapes. But before escaping, she goes to God's old computer and releases the death date of each person in the world. So if each of you receives a WhatsApp message that says you have 30 years, 3 months, 2 days, and 5 hours, and some of you receive something that says you have 5 hours, and that's it. So something interesting happened. Like, we felt that to market the film just as a politically incorrect film with dark humor wasn't true to what we found and fell in love from the story. Because finally, it is a very existentialist story about what happens with persons when they know how many time they got left. And they start thinking if they are living the life the way they want to live, right? If someone tells you you have 5 months, you said, no, I will stop working. This is nonsense. I won't lose my time doing things that I don't enjoy, right? And we felt this idea was very strong. Are you living the life you want to live? What would you change to live the life you really want to live? We felt that is something that people could connect and would help us to further the conversation, the simplistic conversation, to a much interesting one for us. So we did a very simple action. We spoke to 6 well-known writers from our country. Some of them were of novels, some of them were of short stories, some of them of poems. We showed them the film, and when the film finished, we gave them a small paper that says the amount of time they had left until they die. And we told them, could you please write a short story about how your life will change if you got this information suddenly, right? And we started asking people on social media this same question. How would your life change if you knew you were going to die, right? Some people say I would dance, some people say I would eat, some people say I will quit my job, some people say lots of things. But they started connecting with the conversation, you know? And 1 week before the theatrical release of the project, we started releasing one each day, the stories of these guys. And some of them were published in media, and they were pushing the text, and then went viral under this idea of, again, what would I change in my life? So people felt committed to the film on a much stronger way. And actually something really fun happened. That is that one of the writers, he connected so deeply with the idea that he went a little crazy, and he still sent us pictures of the small paper because he wrote a story about his daughter turning 15 because he had 10 years left. Her daughter is 5 now. So he imagined the last dance with her daughter at her sweet 15, you know? And he keeps posting this picture of the date of time that he has left in social media. And this is just from October 16, you know? And we released the film at least 14 months ago. And this is in common, to connect in that kind of way, you know? So, again, this is another approach towards audience design. And then there is a final one from a film called Patterson. Patterson is a film by Jim Jarmusch, and I will show you the trailer in case you haven't seen it. In life, but we came to a situation in which we found it was really hard to get people involved with this film because it's almost a plotless film. Like, it's so simple, the story, that it's almost plain, you know? It's the story about a bus driver during 7 days of the week in which we see him doing the same things every day with very minor difference every day. And with the specific characteristic that he writes poems of things he hears, of conversations that he sees when he drives the bus in a small city of New Jersey, right? Apart from Jim Jarmusch fans, that of course are a group that might be interested naturally on this film, we wanted to try to get to a bigger crowd because we felt that it was such an incredible film that it would be a shame if we would only stay on the people that already knew Jarmusch, right? So we started thinking about ideas that could make people feel involved with this conversation specifically. And we reached like a dead end in which we have two options. One was just to market this regularly as a Jim Jarmusch film, in the tone of humor of Jim Jarmusch, like the most simple option. But we thought of another idea that was, let's bring people closer to this concept of everybody is an artist. We all have an artist within ourselves, and we all can find small, beautiful moments of creation on our daily lives, right? Which was what the main character did, and which was so lovely about him. So we started thinking about this idea of creating a transmedia project in which we proposed to people of San Jose, let's document the small, beautiful moments of what happens in the buses of our city. Take a picture, hear a conversation, and tell us what you liked about that conversation. Record the voices of people. Find small, beautiful moments of daily life that you like and make a change in you, right? And at the end, we wanted to create like this big portrait of what is a day on the buses of San Jose. It brought this New Jersey story closer to our context. It made people connect to the story of the characters. It amplified like the storytelling of the film. And in the end, it brought people into the conversation that the film proposes, you know? And this is something widely interesting for me about audience design. And it's that I figure every creator, every director wants to see concrete actions of what their film creates. And through this type of actions, we have started to create a wider body of content around what the film proposes. But that now is not only the film, it is all these other points of view that dialogue with what the film proposes, right? And actually, this is an example of how sometimes audience design is not possible, to be honest. Because finally, we got to the conclusion that all this effort wouldn't bring us enough people to see the film, even though it was an idea that we fell in love with and was too expensive to do. And we finally didn't do it. You know, we went with the simple, this is a Jim Jarmusch film. And we tried to go to Jim Jarmusch fans, and it went well, but we would have loved to have this document of the daily lives of bosses in San Jose, right? But in this case specifically, we decided not to go for it, right? So coming back to the audience design approach or mindset. Again, films as a possibility to generate conversations. Which are the themes of those conversations? Who wants to have those conversations, right? Audience design can generate a bigger conversation and co-create a bigger amount of content around the themes and worldviews, as we just recently talked about Patterson. And what is all this about? It's not specifically something, you know, it's not distribution, it's not marketing, it's not storytelling, it's something that involves probably all of the professionals that are part of the project, for them to trying to find connections that create emotion between the film and the audience. It's about experimenting, it's about having fun. And actually, just to close, because I know it's late, I just wanted to recommend you a couple of other institutions apart from what Torino is doing with audience design. One is called Propeller Film Tech Hub. This is like a joint venture of International Film Festival of Rotterdam, European Film Market of Berlinale, CPH Docs on Denmark, and Cinematon on Berlin. Basically, it's a group of institutions that came to the same conclusion that we started with. There are too many films being made, much more than what a market could accept, much more than people can watch. So we need to understand how these films each can find their audience and emerge and comes to the surface, you know? Hopefully you can check it out. It's like what they are trying to do, because they meet like every 4 months in different festivals, bringing different industry professionals just to think, which is something that maybe we don't do enough. Like, we are so busy making the films, distributing the films, on the way it should be done, that we don't have any more time to think. And this is the Nostradamus project, that is the one that was noted on the first Screen Magazine note, or, well, noticia. And actually it's a joint venture between the Gothenburg Film Festival and an academic research institute. And actually they have a very interesting premise. Nostradamus Project gathers analysis from the best minds in these fast-changing screen industries, sketching out our future from 3 to 6 years from now. They try to understand what will happen with film industry from 3 to 6 years to 5 years from now. So mostly through investigation of markets, through investigation of audiences, through investigation of production, and they do reports every 6 months, I think. This is a graphic from Propeller on who should participate. And I think this is the most interesting thing about audience design. Audience design is not for producers or for distributors. It's for all of us involved in filmmaking that believe that we should find new ways to success in this very fast changing market. So this is important for directors, this is important for entrepreneurs, it's important for film festivals, it's important for cinemas, it's important for BrLab, and actually this is something positive. I think this is one of the first times in Latin America that we have 3 days to talk with 3 Brazilian projects about which conversation they want to create and who is interested in that conversation, you know? So, well, that's kind of what we wanted to tell you about the approach of audience design.
Thank you so much for listening. And we hope that we gave some ideas to think about, because mostly each film is different, so each strategy and everything should be different. And we hope to hear about your audience design projects soon.